Last Saturday night, we saw a lot of great fights, and we also saw a tale of two legacies with Daniel Cormier and Chris Weidman. Both turned in great performances and yet saw their careers go in opposite directions. What's next for them? We'll talk about that and more coming up. I'm Nate, he's Rich, and we're trading blows.
So welcome back to Trading Blows, different kind of fight talk. Follow us on Twitter, TB MMA Pod, Instagram, Trading Blows. Definitely get on iTunes, rate and subscribe. And last night, buddy, we had a great night of fights on UFC 230.
It was a great night of fights. There are a lot of really good ones, a lot of really good action, a lot of good back and forth action. It was a great night of fights.
We had the coming out party last night of Israel Adesanya. I really thought Brunson's strong wrestling would be the difference here, and Israel showed he's not about that life. He can stop takedowns. He stopped multiple takedown attempts, and he looked great last night, bud. Great.
He did. He looked outstanding. He had really nice takedown defense, and Brunson went for a few takedowns where he left himself wide open, and it was a little surprising there a couple of times, but he hit him with a few big knees, and Brunson stumbled a little bit, got him stumbling like the town drunk, and Brunson was falling all over the place, and Herb Dean stopped. It was a good stoppage by Herb Dean, too.
One of the things we're going to get into, obviously talking about 230, we're going to get into, and we're going to react to what's going on, but also we want to get into referee quality in general in MMA. And no better example here of a polar opposite situation as of last night. Herb Dean in the middle of that fight, Adesanya, had Brunson a bit frustrated, of course. He started really ripping at his shorts and grabbing the shorts.
So Adesanya flips Brunson the bird after Brunson gets warned for twice, Joe, grabbing his shorts.
Grabbed his shorts twice. Look at this. Interesting.
I understand, but you're losing you're losing the position for it. Don't do it again. I don't want to take points.
All right, so no points, just lost the position.
Wait, to the center.
Israel's ready to get in there.
Herb Dean, amongst the best.
He's got his work cut out for him tonight.
I mean, that's the gold standard right there, especially now that Big John McCarthy.
And Herb stepped right in, handled the situation. He gave the position up, started him back neutral, explained what was going on. It was exactly how you handle the situation, Nate. Exactly.
He did a great job because that person was hanging onto his shorts. Brunson was hanging onto his shorts to keep his position, but in reality, he should have lost that position. So Herb did the exact right thing by making him lose that position.
Exactly. And then we have Jared Cannonier with a huge upset last night with David Branch with the right hand, dropped him like a sack of potatoes, Nate.
Man, that was exciting. Those guys were fighting really good, too. That was a really good fight, and that was a really good ending.
Yeah, I mean, blew him back, and then huge GMP for the finish. Great job by Cannonier, man. He's vaulted himself. I mean, here's a guy, like we mentioned last week, lost 2 fights in a row, back against the wall, fighting in Branch's hometown, and the kid gets it done, man. He's in the top 10 now. Welcome to the top 10. Jared Cannonier.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then we get into the co-main events, buddy. And the main event, Chris Weidman, Sousa. This was a great fight, Nate. This was a fantastic fight between these two guys.
It was a fantastic fight. Weidman looked really sharp with those exchanges. He had really good hands, and Jakar had really good hands. I thought Weidman was winning that fight. He was hurting him with some big shots. He was beating him with a punch. He was quicker off the exchange.
Yeah, Joe even said, he hasn't looked better with his hands before, Weidman, and it's true. Looked very, very crisp, man. And Sousa, he's going for those big counters, but, and those got big power, no question. And as you saw, I had Weidman winning this fight pretty much in hand all the way, and then he got blasted on the top of the head with that overhand. Weidman with the weird delay almost, as eyes rolled the back of the head, fell back. And let me tell you, just like Herb Dean handled it so well a couple fights ago, Dan Miragliotta couldn't have handled it worse.
Right on the temple.
Right on the temple, and his legs
almost
just
delayed, right?
Yeah, his legs completely gave out, and Jacare pleads with the referee to stop it.
And you can see when Chris is, look at this, man.
Yeah, his eyes rolled back in his head, and Jacare says, come on, man.
He's too tough for his own good. Again. You let him hit him, what, four more times?
And look, he's hitting him completely defenseless. Chris doesn't even know what's going on. Let's see this again. Boom! His legs just shut off. He lays there, his eyes are rolled back.
Yeah.
And Jacare says, come on, man, this is over.
Props to Jacare. He didn't even want to have to put those shots in. He didn't even want to land those extra ones. He knew it was over.
And you understand, given the
Dan
stakes.
didn't help it out there at all.
And again, we're talking about Miragliotta again, guys. And it's like Felder said last night. You're lucky that Jacare was so classy that he's pretty much looking at Dan and saying, he's pleading with him. Do I got to hit this guy a couple more times? He's definitely out. And he clearly was. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. And Jacare told him twice. He fell down and he put his hands out and asked him. And then you could see Weidman just going for his ankle, and he gave him a couple of good hammer strikes, said something else to him, and then Miragliotta stopped it. That's just totally unacceptable. Miragliotta has to stop that fight before he hits him again.
When you see a guy fall back like that, what else could it be than a knockout? I mean, you saw him just fall back flat on his back. He's definitely out. I don't see what he's not seeing there.
Well, that's totally what happened right there. He totally got straight lined. He was totally out of position. Like he saw the back of Jacare and he saw Weidman fall in front of him, but he couldn't really see him because he was out of position. And the bottom line is you have to keep moving if you're in that ring. You have to keep moving side to side. They're not going to stop moving so you can see. He has to keep moving. And that's one of my biggest gripes with him is not only does he break up fights too fast or break up fighters too fast and restart it too fast, but he's out of position a lot of the time. And there's no better example than this fight where he was just totally out of position and Weidman took extra shots because of it, and that's unacceptable.
Unacceptable. And, when we were talking about the fight ending situation, Weidman fell on his back, and then he was kind of going for a leg. That was after, 5 or 6 long seconds
of,
you know what I mean? It wasn't like he fell and went for the leg.
Absolutely.
He fell, and he was out. I mean, he was seeing lights, and it was over.
Well, I mean, he certainly looked really good last night, but, I mean, the guy's lost 4 out of 5. I mean,
man.
Looking at where he was 5 years ago, where people said that he could hang on to the belt just as long as Silva, and because he looked great, but he beat Machida, he beat Belfort. To be honest, I don't really hang much stock in either of those wins because those guys are old, those guys are on their way out, and then he goes and loses 4 or 5.
It's not like he's an old man. He's still a young guy. He's still got plenty of career left, and I still feel he could claw his way to the top of the division again. But he had the fight in hand. I mean, Luke Rockhold, you were winning the fight, and you pull some wheel kick out of nowhere and you lose the fight. I mean, I don't know. That was more of a gaffe on his end. But whereas if you're Romero and the Sousa, you can't say he has a glass jaw. I mean, those are hellacious baseball bat type shots. I mean, it's not like that.
They were. They were like go ahead.
No. I'm just saying. I mean, that was the top of his skull. He hit him.
Yeah, we got him around the temple with that. And Sousa was throwing home run punches, and Weidman was throwing singles. And I thought Weidman was definitely winning that fight. And I liked the strategy better because half the time Sousa wasn't landing much of anything, and Weidman was still tagging him up. Now, Sousa had some real strong body shots, some really strong liver shots, and I think those started to take their toll there in the third round, slow him down a little bit. And I think that
they were.
And I think that helped him land those ones later in the fight because I think that he had to bring his elbows down to stop those body shots, and then he got him on the temple.
Yeah, 100%. So getting into the main event, DC, DL, Derek Lewis, hey, it went how you thought it was going to go, Nate. It was easy peasy.
It was even easier than I thought it was going to be. I mean, Lewis didn't seem to have anything in here. Cormier had some really nice heel trips where he would reach and get a hold of that heel and get him down from there. He had the right game plan. He was making Lewis, do everything he had to do to get up. And as soon as he got up, he took him back down. He fights his way back up. He takes him back down. We've seen it before. And Cormier executed it perfectly.
Cormier, he did exactly the game plan. Grind him out a little bit, take him down. He had nothing off his back. Everyone expected that. And it was just, hey, listen, let's tire the big man out a little bit. I don't need to take one of these piston blows to the face. And that's all he really had a chance for. And that was it. I mean, he was on top of him, ground him out. And then, second round, it was up. I'm going to take this fight's over now. Took him down. And he took him down a couple different ways. He didn't go with the DC, high crotch slam maneuver.
Well,
Instead, it was more of the ankle pick. No, he didn't. He didn't have to. But he did the ankle pick. He single and he picked his ankle way up high in the air, took him down. Did a couple different takedowns there. DC, it was a light work for him, like we thought. There
were a couple of takedowns there that looked way too easy for him. He would just grab his leg and then he would just kind of flopping over, falling over to the side. I mean, it didn't seem very competitive at all, in my opinion. And what was with DC before the fight, running around, pulling up his shorts like he's my grandpa? What's going on with that guy?
Boy, look at that. Woo!
Bones been calling him Carl Winslow his whole life. He looks like Carl Winslow, but he will fuck you up. I mean, that's all there is to it.
No, but these big fat guys aren't running around calling themselves the best ever. I mean, did you hear him calling himself the greatest fighter of all time?
Hey, it's history, baby! Like my man John Anik says, history in the making, Daniel Cormier, one of the greatest of all time!
When you make I can't sit here and call him the greatest ever.
He's not in top 5 ever. He's not even top 3 right now.
When you make it a list, I mean, he's the best heavyweight right now.
Oh, sure.
Walking around,
pound for pound fighter, he is not 1 or 2 right now. I mean, it's Jones and Khabib, right? I mean, is it even a discussion? I mean, is Cormier better than either of those guys pound for pound right now? No, it's not even close.
Well, I think Khabib has to do more to be considered, best pound for pound. I mean, Khabib has. I mean, Bones. There's no question. I mean, Bones. What's Bones has hurt himself in that argument. That's all there is to it. I mean, in terms of what he's accomplished in the ring, there's no question. I mean, Bones, he is number one. But in terms of Khabib, Khabib's on his way. Khabib's done a lot, but Khabib's got to do more. I mean, he just won the belt finally. He has to do a lot more, fighting the GSPs, fighting the, rematch at Conor, clearing out the division. He has a lot more to do here. He's on his way, no question. He's got the skill set, no question.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
You know what I mean? But, in
I
terms
disagree,
of
but I totally understand your point. Like, I do think he should be ranked higher than Cormier right now, pound for pound, but you make a very good point.
And if you're talking about, pound for pound guys, currently fighting, I would put DJ above those guys too. I mean, if everyone forgets about Demetrius Johnson, what he's done and what he's accomplished, in terms of active fighters on a pound for pound ranking scale, you got to put DJ in the mix too with that argument as well.
Sure. I mean, I have no problem putting DJ in that argument. Like, I just don't like Cormier running around saying that he's the greatest of all time.
When you're making a list and you're considering what this guy's done, I mean, they put the graphic up there, longest heavyweight fight winning streaks of all time. The last Emperor is on top at 18 wins or 16 wins, and Cormier is at 14.
What about
consecutive?
What about Vovchanchyn's 37? They don't count that, I guess.
37.
They forgot about Vovchanchyn's 37 wins in a row. They forgot about that.
How many times? Where has he fought for 37 fights in a row?
Igor Vovchanchyn won 37 heavyweight fights in a row in the late 90s. Did they forget about that?
I think when you're talking about, now listen, I love Igor Vovchanchyn. Let's not get him mistaken, okay? But, we're talking about the Pride wins. That's something. How many Pride wins? How many pro-level wins? Are we talking about the Russian Sambo Championship or Russian Cage Fighting Championship? Or are we talking about top level?
I mean, he fought the best of the best in the late 90s.
For Pride, how many Pride wins did he have? Okay, he had quite a few. Okay, and then he went down to 205 as well at that point. You know what I mean? And never won a championship. Igor Vovchanchyn never won a championship. Okay, DC has won a championship in every single organization he's been a part of. In 2018, he defended the 205 belt at the beginning of the year, won the heavyweight belt, and then defended it all in this year. I mean, that's huge. It's huge, buddy. I mean, like, I love Igor Vovchanchyn as much as the next guy. He's one of my all-time favorites. It is what it is. He has never lost at heavyweight, and these are all, big-time fights. And he went from winning. The only reason why he stopped being a heavyweight fighter and went down to 205 is basically for his boy Kane. I mean, it's basically the only reason why he went down. The only guy that's really handled DC is Bones. I mean, that's it. I mean, and Bones, where we consider Bones at. I mean, he's a big time player. I would have to really think about where I would rank DC, but he's not the best ever, but he's considered. I mean, you got to put it when you put a list together. You got to be thinking about him.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty high on the list.
Listen, when you're talking about a top 10 list, I mean, like, I like to put something together. I like to really think about it, but I could put him on a list right there.
I mean, like, top 10 heavyweights, sure. Top 10 pound for pound all time fighters. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I'd like to think about it, but I think I'd put him somewhere in that list.
Maybe he's on that list. He's not very high on that list, if you ask me.
So, Nate, I think it's time to get into the news. Khabib is saying, like, his agent...
He wants $50 million for his next fight?
$50 million for his next fight. I mean, how plausible do you think this is? I mean, how much money is really Conor getting? I mean, like, Conor's the gold standard with loot-wise, you know what I mean?
Sure. Well, does Khabib understand that a lot of this money is based off of pay-per-view buys? I mean, if Khabib gets the turnout that he had with the Conor fight, he should get $50 million for his next fight. But is he going to get that? I don't think so. I don't think he's even close to getting that.
I mean, just beating Conor was huge for him. But,
Absolutely.
It'll make him a bigger draw. I mean, Nate Diaz, the Diaz brothers are popular anyway, but Nate's a huge draw on his own basically because of that, too.
Yeah, but do you think they're going to draw even close to what they have, 2.5 million buys?
You're not going to draw as much as you did.
Not even
Conor
close.
McGregor.
Maybe if he fights GSP, he might get close to that, but I don't think he's even going to get over 2 million no matter who he fights if it's not Conor.
My opinion is on the whole thing, and I have nothing to begrudge. I can't begrudge a guy trying to get cash. I mean, get money. You know what I mean? Please.
No, of course.
But for me though, if it's not Tony Ferguson, it's a total BS situation, Nate. I mean, it's got to be Tony. We dealt with this before. Tony deserves it. Let's just get this out of the way.
No,
you know what I mean?
Tony deserves it. I'm fine if it's Tony. But if it's St. Pierre, I'm fine too. I mean, if St. Pierre wants to fight Khabib, and if those guys want to fight, then Tony has to wait. Tony has to wait. That's just what it comes down to. Tony can go back and fight Pettis again. Pettis deserves a rematch, or Tony can go fight Conor. I mean, that's fine. But why can't Khabib go fight GSP? I see nothing wrong with that.
I'm not saying I'm against it. He's a legend, and it'd be great. It'd be a great fight. It'd be a legendary fight for sure. I just feel like first title defense with a division that is so log jammed, and a fight that they've tried to make so many times. And like, here's a guy who had a monumental sick performance, right before that fight. I don't know. I just feel it's Tony no matter what. But yeah, I'm probably wrong. It probably will be GSP.
Well, to me, I mean, I think like GSP is just an exception to all of that. Like, he is just something that changes the whole scenario. Like, if GSP is in 155, GSP gets the shot because he's GSP. That's just how it is.
I don't disagree with you, but you know what I mean, though.
I get it.
I'm an old school guy. You're an old school guy. Listen, number one contender. He's out there. I mean, you know what I mean. So anyway, the final TJ Cejudo quote unquote, and I put in quotes, super fight is now planned on at 135. TJ is going to defend his belt against Cejudo at 135. They're targeting 233 in January.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like that they're going to shutter the 125 division, which I think is really sad. But if they do, I mean, what else is Cejudo supposed to do? I mean, he has to go up there and fight somebody, and he might as well fight TJ. I mean, he's the prime guy for it. I mean, who else is TJ going to fight right now? I mean, he already beat Garbrandt twice.
That's true. I mean, a lot of guys at 135 that are good, but
you're right.
You're shutting down 125, and I'm not going to get a whole big rant about it. I think it's BS, man. I mean, there's plenty of guys, plenty of fighters. Why not have it? I just, I think it's ridiculous.
I agree. Well, did you see that they're also going to have that UFC 233? It's scheduled the same night as the Bellator Grand Prix Finals. You see that?
Of course. And that's going to be a problem for Bellator.
Do you think that's like Big Brother trying to kick little brother, saying, hey, like, watch yourself? Do you think that's what that is? Trying to Big Brother him a little bit?
Well, UFC has been counter-programming people for a while. They've done this with Strikeforce, Elite XC. This is not the first time they've done this. And, essentially, Bellator has been building to this finals. All of 2018 was all about this Grand Prix. Throughout the course of the year, building it up. It's finally here. And, of course, they're going to counter-program it. Now, Ben Askren, done talking, pretty much calling out every single person in America.
I'm about sick of hearing him.
We're going to find out because they're saying he's going to get
pretty funny. I'll give him that. Some of it's funny, but I'm just sick of hearing it.
Well, Colby, too. I mean, you saw with Colby, he called him a needle dick and said he can't draw 15 people at an Asian bingo hall or something.
I know. I don't like either one of these guys. I mean, I have like no one to root for if these guys fight each other.
Right. But Ben is they're targeting welterweight 170, and they're looking at Colby or Wonder Boy possibly, and those would be cool matchups. Askren says he wants Till in London. Till was talking crap back and forth on social media with him. That'd be a good matchup. Total quagmire. Askren, he's going to get somebody big time. That's the bottom line of this whole news segment of this piece is that he's getting a top 5 guy in the division,
and he should. I mean, I have no problem with that.
Yeah. And I'm cool with that, too. I just think it's going to be very interesting. If it's Colby, I think Colby should be the next guy fighting Tyron anyway. Wonder Boy would be great. I think Wonder Boy is going to get smushed up, but we'll see what happens. I'd like to see
how it goes. I wouldn't underestimate him. Wonder Boy's really good.
No, I like Wonder Boy. I think his striking's great, but for another time. We're going to break it down when they ever announce it, but it's going to happen soon. So last week, Nate and I talked about, Weidman and Mousasi, and we went out a little bit.
Deserve a rematch.
So Weidman's career's done.
He doesn't deserve to play in Madison Square Garden again.
So Chris Weidman's done. We should just not. He shouldn't fight anymore.
He doesn't deserve a rematch.
We're not going to get it back into it again for sure. But put your claws away, Nate. But I think we can agree that at some level, Dan Miragliotta messed up the handling of that whole situation. No.
Yeah, no, we totally agree on that. He totally screwed that whole thing up because there were times when after he was told it was a legal strike, he was still telling him how much time he had to recover from a legal strike. So the whole thought process was in question.
And I think Dan wasn't quite aware of the newer rules and what was actually, because there were new rules, but New York, unfortunately, didn't adopt those rules, and he perceived it one way. And even, Big John, he saw the legality of it from ringside. So, and he's more of a trained guy anyway. He has more of a trained eye than Dan, I would feel. But he saw it right from jump. I mean, but that leads me to a whole bigger discussion about referee quality in mixed martial arts. And it's an issue, man. I mean, when you look at refereeing at other sports, you can make a bad call, and it certainly might cost a team a game. But in combat sports, you're really dealing with people's lives here. You could really endanger somebody if you're not doing the right thing.
Absolutely. And these mixed martial arts officials, they really have one big responsibility, and that's to protect the fighters from themselves and from any other situation. And the ways that they really get in the most trouble is when you let a fight go too long, break it up too early, or you miss something that happens during the fight.
The most dangerous thing, and it's kind of subjective, is, whether or not you let the fighter go and fight out of a situation or not. Sometimes it's very obvious and it can get very, very dangerous, which we can get into. But, when a guy's on top, ground and pounding, going to town on somebody, how many strikes is too many strikes, Nate? Versus, letting a guy fight their way out and make a big comeback, which ends up being, of course, one of the most exciting moments you'll see all night in the fights if that happens. You've seen that a million times. It ends up being great.
Well, I think those delusions of glory are very dangerous because you can't go thinking, if he came back from this, it'd be so memorable. Because if you're thinking that, then you've already acknowledged that this person's in real trouble. And if that person's in real trouble, you need to start looking out for their safety more than the glory of the fight.
Then, of course, the juxtaposition of that is jumping in on something too soon. And stopping a fight when, for example, Big John, who I feel is one of the great, obviously a foundation member of the refs. He's fantastic, but he's not perfect either. So, we talked about on our fighter profile that first fight against Cohen and Silveira. Big John was the one in the ring that ring. And, and he thought Saku got dropped by a shot when in reality he was just dropping for that single leg and he didn't really see it. Ended up stopping the fight. And that actually caused Saku to be the most mad that I've ever seen that guy. I mean, it was a horrible call, and nobody's perfect.
Well, one of the most dangerous things, and I think what happened to John here, and you see it sometimes, is where someone gets straight-lined, like where they say, like in basketball or in baseball, you need to always be at the 90-degree angle so you can see it clearly. And you see sometimes it's so hard in mixed martial arts because they're always turning, especially if they're, in like a standing clinch, they're always moving around. You could be in a perfect position, then be straight-lined, a split second later. And I think that's what happened with Big John there, because Big John was looking at one thing, whereas he should have been looking at another, because when Saku went down in that fight, he jumped right in right away, whereas, he looked like he was really concerned, like he was out, whereas it wasn't like that at all.
There's some refs that really, I don't even understand, Nate, how they even got into this business. I mean, honestly, some of the stuff they've done is just absolutely horrendous. For example, a Steve Mazzagatti, who I don't even think is reffing anymore, to be honest with you. But this guy has a laundry list of horrendous situations that he's been a part of.
Yeah, and Dana's called him out on it, almost every single time, him and Mario Yamasaki. And you have to figure for Dana has carried this organization on his shoulders for the last 20 years, trying to make it mainstream. And there's nothing that kicks you down a peg or two than having a fight go too long or having it look too gory or like a blood sport, because once it starts to look too dangerous, then you're starting to reel back to where you were in the late 90s. Well, also, these refs, their knowledge base has to be so great. I mean, like you mentioned before, that Mergliata didn't know the rules set at that time. That is inexcusable. That is his responsibility to know the rules, whether if he is in this state or the next. Another thing is having some kind of understanding of the damage that certain moves can do, like with Mazzagatti with the Josh Berkman, John Fitch submission, where Berkman had the guillotine locked in and Fitch went limp, but Berkman had to stomp on his own. I mean, he stood up and celebrated before Mazzagatti did anything, and Dana called him out on that.
Anybody here disagree with me that Mazzagatti is a fucking toolbox? I mean, he literally did nothing. Fitch is out cold. And I saw some people talking shit on the internet today. Like, oh, well, BJ Penn held the choke for 5 more seconds, and somebody else, I can't remember who it was, rear naked chokes. If you fucking choke me, hold a real naked choke for 5 more seconds. This fucking choke? Anybody who's ever done any jiu-jitsu, that thing does fucking damage. It hurts, and a guy's unconscious, and you're squeezing his neck. All this shit right here as hard as you can. You're a fucking idiot to think that a rear naked choke is the exact same as that front choke. And literally, when he goes limp, and he's out. Then he rolls him fucking over, lets his head fucking flop to the thing, and then stands up over him. He's literally like this, standing up over him before Mazzagatti even fucking gets in the picture. The Nevada State Athletic Commission is going to keep this fucking guy around until he seriously hurts somebody. That guy is dangerous. He's dangerous.
Mazzagatti, not the first time he's done this. You know, you look at when Mir fought Brock Lesnar for the first time, okay? Mir had him in that heel hook for far too long. And he let that go. It was almost as if Mazzagatti was trying to teach Lesnar a lesson like, oh yeah, welcome to MMA type thing. And he could have shredded this guy's knee, and that would have been the first and last time you see him in the octagon. I mean, period, stop.
I don't know if he's even working anymore. Is Mazzagatti even working? I haven't seen him in I don't know how long.
Well, you know, there's a lot of lower level organizations out there that we don't see. I mean, he's probably making money that way, but if Steve Mazzagatti has some kind of like training course that you can take, or if he's doing some, I would be concerned. Mazzagatti has such a long history of this kind of crap that if I'm a fighter and Mazzagatti's the third guy in the ring, I'm worried because, you know, honestly, Nate, right? I'm worried. You know,
no, he's bad. Well, also, you know, I mean, what about Mario Yamasaki? He's just as bad.
Horrendous.
I mean, I don't know if I can say just as bad. They're both terrible in different ways.
Dana, that's his new favorite target. And you know, it's only been recently, but I don't know if Mario's going to ref a UFC fight ever again. But
he shouldn't.
He shouldn't. He should not. Mario Mazzagatti, as Dana calls him, total cornball with the little heart move. No one cares, buddy. What is that? And he has a big problem with stopping fights, just like Steve did. I mean, how many incidents is this guy to be involved with? And we're talking recently. I'm not talking about 10 years ago. Okay, I'm talking about like 3 months ago, this guy has had issues, right? So many problems, Nate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at the Kevin Lee versus Mike Jacia fight. I mean, Lee had the rear naked choke on, and Mario jumped in right away, and you can see on Mike's face, it was a little weird. I mean, he thought he got robbed.
He had the choke locked in. And yeah, Mike, he's trying to fight the situation off, and his eyes kind of went really wide, but I don't think he was, out. I mean, I don't think there was enough time for him to go out. You know what I mean? And his eyes went up because, he's a danger, clearly, and he's trying to do what he's got to do, and Mario jumped right in. And what is Mario doing? Mario was reacting in a horrendous way to his previous late stoppages that he's done in the past. So instead of trying to figure something out, Mario, you're now going to jump right in on a fight and stop him right away. Like with Valentina versus Chosera, Valentina Shevchenko absolutely mauled this woman. The total strikes for it was a round and a half worth of action was 214-2. Okay.
Yeah, it was just way. He just let it go way too long. I mean, just way too much punishment for that fight.
And she's in Brazil. She's a Brazilian. He's Brazilian.
He said that he was allowing Priscilla to be a warrior. What do you think about that statement?
I think it's disgusting. I think he's disgusting, and I never want to see him reffing ever again.
Dana, what about the fact that people could argue that she could have tapped if the punishment got too much?
She didn't. She didn't tap, and that's the thing. The reality is when you're a fighter and you're in there, and it's one of the reasons that this sport is as big as it is, because most of you guys don't tap. Most of you guys stay in there, and she did fight like a warrior. For that idiot to say that he gave her the opportunity to be a warrior, no, you moron. You're in there to protect her from herself. He makes me sick. That guy has no business reffing fights, and I promise you, you're not going to see him again.
That is selfish of him. That is selfish because he's trying to assume that she's going to do something remarkable, achieve the impossible. Meanwhile, she's absorbing this punishment. She is having her career, her future compromised so that he can try to make something happen that is improbable to begin with. It's unfair, it's unfortunate, it's irresponsible.
Correct me if I'm wrong, okay? That if you're in a cage fighting for the UFC or Joe Blow's fighting ring, okay? You are a warrior, dude. How have you gotten here? By being a warrior, man. And you know what? Yeah. She could have tapped out due to strikes, but you know what? Some dudes are built like that. It's up to the corner that they did her a disservice, clearly, by not throwing the towel. I don't know what they were thinking, but
it's also his job. Like, he can't point to the corner. It's your job too. Like these are like stopgaps. You have the ref and you have the corner. One of them has to do their job, and they can't point at each other and blame each other. other.
Talking about this went to a second round. So in between rounds, Mario can't go up to the corner and say, hey, listen, I'm going to stop this fight, guys. What's going on? You know what I mean? Like, he can't, is that out of bounds? Of course he can say that.
Absolutely, he can say that. Well, like, speaking of communication, and Mario Yamasaki, good grief. You remember the Josh Koscheck, Rebel Johnson fight?
Oh,
Koscheck, he got poked in the eye, and he had 5 minutes to recover, so that's pretty standard. Koscheck told the doctor he had blurry vision in that eye. The doctor talked to Yamasaki about it, and then talked to Koscheck again, and then said he was going to go talk to someone about it, go talk to the head doctor. He tells Yamasaki this, the doctor exits, Yamasaki closes the gate and restarted the fight. That's a true story. That really happened.
I know.
Now, thank God Koscheck actually won that fight by, I think he had a rear naked choke or some kind of submission. But, I mean, that is unbelievably irresponsible.
I mean, who are you going to pick here? Who's worse, Mazzagatti or Yamasaki?
I would have to say Mazzagatti edges him out as the worst.
I mean, he's putting some fighters in danger, Mazzagatti, you know?
But also, when you talk about the worst, you can't forget about Cecil Peoples because he's a terrible ref and a terrible judge. So, like, he's your twofold. He's
super out of shape. He, like, thinks he's a big martial artist.
Yeah, he has a good dance move, though. What about his dance move?
The little chop move when he's like, let's dance. He just little like, hiya, and he starts. I mean,
I don't know where he got that from. Like, because he doesn't do the crane from the Karate Kid. Where did he get that from?
It's some kind of technique. I think he actually holds a belt in something. I don't know who gives him.
Well, he's got a belly button the size of a coffee cup. I can't see him being too athletic.
And he's had some horrible situations like Nate Quarry and Pete Sell in the first time they fought. Okay, Quarry rocked Pete Sell, fell back, but he was not really out. You know what I mean? And then Quarry's following up, and he's on top of him, and they're both clearly working. Okay, so then Cecil Peoples, in a move I've never seen another ref do, decided to lay on top of both of them with all four saying, I'm going to stop it. I'm going to stop it.
That was so stupid.
Either you're stopping it, Cecil, or you're not, buddy. I don't know what is going on with that dude. Like, that is, I mean, I don't know what that is,
The optics of that were very, it was pretty funny, actually.
But we cannot forget, the catalyst of our whole argument last weekend, Nate, was our boy, as you call him, Meathead Murgliata.
I just wish he was as good of a referee as he was at getting a tan.
Yeah, dude. There are so many situations. I mean, Carwin, when he fought Frank Mir, let Carwin beat on Mir for no less than 25 seconds of just unanswered destruction.
I do remember that. And Carwin isn't someone who's throwing soft punches either.
That's all Carwin does.
He's smashing people's faces in.
Smash people's faces. And Mir... Mir's a tough guy. I mean, he's not going to tap out, but you got to protect the fighter. I mean, this is what your job is to protect the fighter. Didn't do it. You see a lot of incidents with Mario and Steve where they're letting fights go on too long. And clearly, Carwin had that with Mir in that fight. But I think Murgliata's big situation is he's not decisive enough. He's not decisive. Like the whole Weidman Wasasi thing would have been handled a lot better if he obviously did his homework and was decisive. Like, even if he made that mistake initially, he went back right away and took control of it. That's his octagon. He took control of it. No, Weidman, you're fighting right now. Oh, you don't want to? Fight's over. I mean, that's
exactly.
It. Oh,
that's how you do it. No doubt.
It's like, oh, you're done? You're done. Boom, we're done. Oh, that was legal. My bad, done. And that's it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's totally unacceptable. And, you've also seen, because I've seen Murgliata try to move the action along at times when he shouldn't, like he's breaking up good stand-up grappling, like I can think of a couple of Woodley fights where he's done that, but also the Damian Maia Anderson Silva fight, that fight was awful. And because Anderson just danced throughout the whole fight, Murgliata didn't do anything to spur the action. So there's a case where you have someone who makes a mistake in one way and tries to make sure that they don't make that mistake again, but then they go screw up another fight for the opposite reasons because they overcompensate the other way. And, and in all fairness to Murgliata and to Mazzagatti and Yamasaki, we are pointing out all the major blunders that they've had. We also have to figure that, for all of the mistakes that they've made 10 moves that are really good aside from that. Like, for example, like when I was umpiring in a 9-inning game, an umpire sees between 300 and 400 pitches. And I remember one time I was walking off, and this was like a summer college game, where someone said, the coach said, hey, good job, Nate, I got you for 2. Like I missed 2 pitches. And I just said, are you saying that I was right over 99% of the time? That's better than I thought I did.
But, we don't want to have it be a poop party on all these refs, all these bad situations. There are some good ones out there, guys, that we really, really respect. And, of course, you don't start a list or talk about refs and MMA Let's start with Big John McCarthy. I mean, he's the gold standard, no?
Yeah. I mean, he's the pioneer. He is the one who revolutionized the position. He was. I mean, it really started with him, and he's still very active today. He works with commissions. He works with rules committees. He works on the unified rules. He's always revamping them. He is the main person when it comes to that.
He refused to do another UFC event after UFC 1 because people don't remember this, but UFC 1, the ref could not stop the fight. It was not allowed. And John said, listen, you got to give me some power as a ref or else what the hell am I doing in there? And he's right. And he refused to go on. And they actually, at that point, allowed the ref to step in. People take that for granted now, like, oh, that's really obvious. But back then, we're talking about uncharted territory. I mean, he's a pioneer and revolutionary in that point, in that May.
Really, all of the refereeing has really been revolutionized since the mid-'90s by Big John.
Big John created Command, which was the certification of officials for mixed martial arts national development, which was it's a 3-day course. It's very, very popular. And, I don't know how mandatory that is, but that should be mandatory and it should be longer than a 3-day course. You know what I mean? But at least that,
absolutely.
But that, if you're talking about UFC refs, I understand that Dana, Big John's involved with, everybody. He's not the UFC's ref. He's associated with UFC, but he'll ref everywhere, but why not get involved? I mean, does UFC have some sort of program to vet and train refs to make them better? I don't know how if they have that or not. I know the commissions are the one that assign the refs, not UFC. So, what kind of vetting and certifications and training do these guys really have? I mean, I don't know.
Well, that's a good point because a lot of these guys come from completely different backgrounds. You have some people who are former mixed martial arts fighters, some people who are former college wrestlers, some people who are boxing judges, boxing referees, and there's really a very wide array of people from different backgrounds. So you really need to have that common training where they're all on the same page. And I don't think you have that at all right now.
Grappling is harder to look at. I mean, you have to know what you're looking at with grappling, or you can get a guy in big trouble. You know what I mean? And that takes a lot more training. And I don't want to sit here and say it doesn't happen, but it should be more prominent. A situation where you have this command situation with Big John, that should be a lengthy certification course. I mean, 3 days. It should be. It's just. I don't think 3 days is enough. It may not be. I mean, I don't know how long.
No, absolutely not.
But but it shows how John is trying to blaze trails and improve situations. I mean, he was instrumental in instituting the revised unified rules. He was instrumental in having the unified rules. I mean, he's authority in that regard, and he's fantastic. Another good guy is Herb Dean. We like Herb.
I think that Herb Dean's the best in the sport, to be honest with you. With all respect to Big John has done more than anybody else. But I mean, I see Herb Dean doing good work a lot of times, and one that I really point to, something that I don't think he gets enough credit for, as well as other referees, is having a really good stoppage. Mm-hmm. Like that. Like I think he had a really good stoppage when someone else we're going to talk about, the Korean Zombie and the Mark Hominick fight. Hominick was out cold less than 5 seconds into that fight because he walked right into a straight right hand, and Herb had the guts to stop it. Hominick popped right up. He protested the stoppage after. He was really mad, but Herb Dean was right. He was out for that moment, and for that moment, him being out, he did the right thing stopping it.
Herb has actually fought in fights. I mean, he has that MMA acumen. He's been in fights before himself. And so having that experience, I think it must do him wonders on a referee standpoint, and he does do a good job. And you know what, too? Being a bigger athletic guy, I think that really helps as well, because you got to get in there in the mix with these two monsters wrestling each other or whatever. You got to get up in there. I mean, like Kim Winslow, who we didn't mention, but she is notorious herself.
Oh, geez, yeah, that was the Cyborg Finney fight.
She's been involved with heavyweight fights, and this girl is 110 pounds soaking wet. She can't get in there, and you know what I mean? Like, it's like she's going to get killed. You know what I mean? And like, you have to have some skill in that way. I mean, Big Dan, Big John. I mean, they're big guys to get in there, but you got to be able to ref any fight. And if you can't, because your physical stature isn't good enough, or your fit, or your experience doesn't allow it, you should be in there. And Herb obviously done it. Another guy who we want to mention is Leon Roberts as well. We like Leon Roberts.
Yeah, well, you're just talking about being able to get in there. Well, there's that one fight, I think it was Natias Frederick and Ahmad Oswald, I think it was, where Frederick knocked him down. Frederick kept going, like the fight's over, and he kept going, and Roberts wrapped him up and put him in like a rear naked choke.
Yeah, because guys get their blood up and they see red, and you have to be the one to stop the fight. And you're right, you got to get in there and make it. You have to be definitive. You got to do your homework, and you got to make a quick decision. It's not easy, and we're not saying it's easy. So what do you think, Nate, are some suggestions that we think that we could improve? We talked about certifications. We talked about training. Obviously, that's all very important. But what else do you think MMA communities, the athletic commissions could do to help improve this situation?
Well, one thing that Pride did that I liked a lot was the card system. Whereas if there was something, if there were something illegal, if it was lack of action, they get a yellow card, and that's like 10% of their purse.
Hit them in the pocket right away.
So you're hitting them in the pocket right then, and that's something that just helps spur the action. Now, I don't like the UFC taking money from these UFC fighters, because I mean, this is really where, boss makes $1, I make a dime type of situation. Like these fighters aren't making anything compared to what Dana and the brass are making right now. So I don't like the idea of them taking that money, but maybe you can use the card to take a point or something like that. If you're taking money, then you're taking money, but I like using the card system. It gets it going, it gets them moving.
It's a visual. It's a nice visual.
It's a visual. We all know what happened, and it's like better than them taking a card over illegal. Taking a point over illegal strike, because that's very inconsistent. We've seen people, and talk about these refs, we've seen guys take points for things other refs don't take points for at all. So I'd like to see more consistency with that as well.
That card situation would have been very useful with what we talked about earlier with that Maya Anderson Silva fight. If Dan could have put a yellow card up in front of Anderson, says, stop the dancing, let's make it happen, I guarantee you Anderson would have jumped in there, because I know what, he's had a card in front of his face in Pride before, and he got it done at that point. So, you know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
That would have been a visual. And you don't have to take a lot of money from these guys. And you're right, it doesn't have to be like half their purse. A lot of these guys aren't getting paid much as it is, which is a travesty anyway. But yeah, it's a visual too. It's like, the ref knows it's not good. We're communicating. We're being visual. Another thing that I'd like to see too is that they had this big conglomerate of old fighters and refs and stuff, and they took the unified rules and refined them to make them a lot better, to eliminate this hand down north-south knee game and improving judging with damage and all kinds of stuff. It's the replay use. All types of really great improvements spurred on by legendary fighters like Matt Hughes, Randy, Big John was involved with it. It was a big thing, great thing, and not every single state has adopted it, and not every athletic commission has adopted it. It causes confusion. It's ridiculous. In my mind, UFC could be help with that. Why? In my mind, why? I understand it's hard to not come into MSG and try to make it happen, but UFC shouldn't go to the markets that don't have the new unified rules. There's plenty of places that want to pay for UFC to show up. They should be boycotting the places until they have their rules up to snuff where everybody else has a standard, to eliminate any kind of confusion.
I completely agree. They need to have the standard going across each state and everywhere where they're sanctioned, because like you saw in the Bellator fight with Karatanov and Nelson, Karatanov need him in the head because Karatanov is fighting in places where those are legal.
Right.
So, you need to get these guys in these areas where these rules are more often.
Obviously, it's on the ref, like Murgielata we go back to it again, the Weidman Wasasi thing. It was really on him to do his homework and understand what the rules are. But for the fans, and guys calling the fight, everything, why not have, these rules were amended for the sake of the fighter and the quality of everything going on. So why not adopt them? Why is New York dragging their feet on that in other markets? It's stupid, Refereeing, in conclusion, refereeing is a hard situation, man. You can get into your own head, you make the wrong call. It's not right, but when you're dealing with these fighters in dangerous situations, it could cost somebody money, career. It's a very dangerous thing, and it's not easy to do.
Well, you're playing with fire. For sure. So Rich, moving on to UFC Fight Night 139 this weekend. We have the Korean Zombie versus Rodriguez for the 25th anniversary show, and I really like how they went back to Denver for this.
Yeah, man.
That's where it started. That's where they're going back to.
It's really too bad that we didn't get Frankie Edgar on here. No better guy to represent 25th anniversary of the UFC than the answer Frankie Edgar. And it's too bad, but, we end up getting a good matchup anyway and a good card. It's going to be a fun night.
It is going to be a fun night. I can't wait for the two main event cards. Those are both Fight of the Year candidates.
100%. So we're going to talk about the main card, and we're going to touch on this first fight, this Mike Trizano against Luis Pena. Pena, known as Violent Bob Ross, and he looks like Bob Ross. It's ridiculous. But, these guys, Luis, he comes off of the tough undefeated season tough 27. He beat all opponents. He's the winner there. So they're trying to showcase him versus a guy that was also in that same house with him, Pena, Violent Bob Ross. I see Pena being more of the finisher, being more well-rounded. And, personally me, I see a submission second round Luis Pena myself.
I could see that happening. I'm going to go with Trezano. I think Trezano is a more well-rounded fighter. I think he has more weapons. I think he can win the fight in more ways, but I'm going to go with the decision for Trezano.
Then we move on to Macy Barber against Hannah Cyphers. Now, she came off a very vicious TKO by elbows on Dana's Contender Series, which I think is great. The Tuesday Night Contender Series is a great situation. I mean, great product.
Yeah, it is great. And like that win that Barber had with those elbows, they were vicious. That was some serious stuff.
So Macy, she's 5-0, 4 finishes, and she's taking on a girl, Hannah Cyphers, a Muay Thai practitioner, making her UFC debut. Obviously, we have a kind of a striker versus kind of a grappler situation here, I feel. And
that's what it seems.
At 115, and in my mind, I think you're trying to showcase Macy, and that's what I think is happening here. I think UFC's putting her. It'd be unfair to call Hannah a can. I don't know nothing about the girl, but I feel that when you have a viral knockout that you did on a Contender Series product that you have, now she's on 25th anniversary show, just like this Mike Trezano, you're really trying to showcase these guys. You're trying to showcase your other products. And I feel like it's a winnable fight for Macy, Macy by decision. I mean, that's how I see it.
I agree with that. I think it'll be Macy by decision. I do agree with what I think you're saying, and that the UFC is trying to give Macy someone that she'll beat. It does seem like that. And, I'm being totally unfair to Hannah Cyphers here. I have no idea how good of a fighter she is. She's a Muay Thai fighter. It's my kind of fighter. Those are the type of people I normally root for. But without knowing anything about her, and by having an idea of what's going on here, I'm going to go with Macy Barber.
Well, she's fought, I understand it's a Contender Series, but, she fought for the UFC. I mean, she's already got that out of the way, okay? Hannah hasn't. Big show, big lights. That plays a factor, too. So, you could have some...
It does.
So, with all that being said, I just feel Macy's going to do enough to win.
And so we have Benavidez versus Ray Borg.
This could be, Nate, one of the last fights in 125 pounds, and it's a real shame. But this is going to be a great matchup.
It is a real shame. We're all very well aware of Ray Borg's situation with his young child, taking care of his son, and it's been really tough for him. My heart goes out to him and his family. I don't know how much time he's been able to prepare for this fight, and that's nothing against him. It's just the reality of the matter, because let's be honest, this fighting, Rich, you're a father. None of this really matters in the grand scheme of things when it comes to what he's dealing with.
100%, but at the same time, this is what's taking care of his medical bills and putting food on the table. So he's got to get the stuff done, of course. And, being a dad, you do what you got to do, of course. But the last time we saw Bray fight was against Mighty Mouse, now one championship's own Mighty Mouse, who, hit him with that ridiculous belly-to-back suplex to an armbar. Retarded. One of the greatest highlights I've ever seen in mixed martial arts. So that's the last time we saw him fight, and that was October of 2017. So we're talking almost a year now.
Well, yeah, because he was involved in that bus situation, right?
Correct.
At the Garden.
Correct.
So I think that derailed one of his fights, and then he's had this issue with his son going on throughout.
So he's had a lot of extracurricular stuff going on that I feel is going to be a detriment to him in this fight. I really feel, Joseph Benavidez, being, alpha male, standout. He's been doing this for a while. He's been in there with a lot of good fighters, great wrestling, great striking, very high volume. I just think in my mind, to be fair to Ray, I think Ray getting in there next weekend is an accomplishment of itself. And I hope he does really well. And I hope, he makes it happen for him. But I just feel that when you look at it, Benavidez being the elder statesman, being the more experienced guy, and he's been more active. He just last fought in June. He's been there doing it. And I look at Joe having more volume and winning the fight on decision. That's how I see Joe winning the fight on decision.
Yeah, this is one of those cases where you want someone to win, but you don't think they're going to win, because I want Ray Borg to win. But if I were a betting man, I wouldn't bet on him to win this fight, because he has those distractions in his life, and it's really unfortunate. But I do think Benavidez is going to win this fight by decision. Hats off to Ray for getting in there, like you said. I want him to win. I just don't think it's going to happen.
So moving on to my girl, Raquel Pennington against Jermaine Duraname. Last time we saw Rocky was against Nunes, getting shellacked in 5 rounds. Nunes is an animal. There's no question.
She is.
And, she put a beating on the girl, and it is what it is. But she is a top contender, and she's going to get back on track against Jermaine Duraname, Dutch kickboxer with a 37-0 record. And, my issue with Jermaine Duraname is...
Isn't she dirty?
Super dirty, Nate. Listen, the whole situation with Holly when she fought for the 145-pound title in Brooklyn for the main event. You got the inaugural championship event against a Holly Holm, who is tough as they come. Holly, she's hitting her after the bell. She's doing stuff. No one says anything about it, and that ends up being, no points were taken or anything like that. And you give the fight and a decision to Germaine after she's been dirt McGirt the whole fight. It was absolutely ridiculous. Then to turn around, Nate, and then drop the belt because you don't want to fight Cyborg. I mean, what's up with this chick? I have no love for this chick. I'm full disclosure, no love for her.
No, and I hope Rocky beats her up.
I think Rocky will beat her up. I think she's going to beat her up.
I'm not a fan of her at all. What she's doing against Holm is unacceptable, and I just don't feel there's any room in this sport for that. I think Rocky Pennington beats her up. I think she knocks her out. Second round TKO.
I agree with that. I think second round TKO is what's happening. I think you see a lot of ground and pound. I mean, Raquel's beating some big time play people. Misha Tate, Andrade, Correa, and then she's gonna get back on track here, get right back in the title contention, and she's gonna beat this chick up for sure. So then we go on to the heart of the matter. These two next fights, Nate, are going to be really, really fun.
It's going to be great. I mean, like these are both going to be. These both have the potential to be Fight of the Year candidates. You have Mike Perry against Cowboy Cerrone, and there's a lot of drama here with these guys, Rich.
A lot of beef here, Nate, because Cerrone has been Jackson Wink for forever. He's been involved with Jackson Wink and big time camp. And Mike Perry goes over there to work with them, and the story goes, when the fight came up, that Cerrone went to Jackson and all them and said, "Hey, you're not really going to train Mike get to fight me, are you?" I mean, they know Mike, they know Donald better than anybody else. He's like, "I don't want them to fight. Why would you train this guy get to fight me?" And they were trying to be fair about it, but train both guys. And Donald said, "You know what? You go scratch," and he bounced. He left Jackson Wink for this fight.
Well, yeah, part of this is directly related to Wink because Cerrone doesn't pay Wink as much as he pays Jackson. There's something going on with that. Cowboy talks about all this with Joe Rogan, but he says how they continued to train Perry, and Perry had only been there for a camp, whereas, like you had said, Cowboy had been there for 10 years, and he was one of the first guys there, and he's been there the whole time.
Yeah.
I can see both sides here because if I'm Cowboy, I'm not happy because where's your loyalty? I've been here. I've been paying you. I've been helping keep the lights on here. But then at the same time, Cowboy's on one end of his career, Perry's on the other. Cowboy's lost 4 of his last 5 fights. Mm-hmm. You need to look ahead, but at the same time, at what cost? At what cost to loyalty? So that's a tough situation.
I mean, we talk loyalty again. To me, with Greg, his name is on that building. It's Wink. Jackson Wink, right? Jackson fucking Wink. Your name's first even. When it came time to pick the decision and they said we want to go with Perry, why the fuck didn't you stand? Because Greg's still with me. He's like, yeah, I'll just come to the ranch and we'll sort this out. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Right.
You tell me I can't come into the Jackson Wink gym, but you're going to backdoor and come to my fucking house and we're going to train to fight me while Perry's there at the gym. You see everything he does. And then you're going to come and you're going to train me. Not to mention you're holding classes there and he's watching. I mean, you might not be training him to beat me, but there's a lot of people there that have trained with me for fucking years. So to me, that was the point I was saying, like, man, can we just not have him there for this camp? I mean, there's a lot of secrets that inner secrets that I have. Like, I'm fucking scared to death to fight. Like that's the thing that they can tell him. Like, or they tell him, go get Cowboy mad. He doesn't fight well when he's pissed off. So fucking piss him off, poke at him, poke the bear, and piss him off. Get him out of his element, give him, the shit like this.
Yeah.
Right? So,
yeah.
And there's a lot of other things, small, dumb things that I do. And
tendencies that they've seen over
the year.
I think you've seen camps where both guys fight many times. Cowboy really, a lot of his success came from working with these guys at Wink, and a reason why people look to Jackson Wink as one of the top camps is a guy like Cerrone came out of there. I mean, that's a big deal.
I mean, to be fair to Jackson had a lot of guys come out of there. Rashad.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Diego's been there forever. There are a lot of guys. Carlos Condit, a lot of good guys out of there.
Oh yeah, I'm not to say it's Cerrone, but Cerrone's one of them.
He is for sure.
I don't know what's going on with him. He's fought at 155, he's fought at 170. I think his career is kind of catching up to him, man. He has lost 4 out of his last 5. I don't know, man. I personally, I see Mike Perry. I think this is going to be a striking match. I think you're going to see an awesome, fun, striking match between 2 guys. And I feel that Mike's going to do enough to win. His boy Masvidal beat him, knocked him out. And I feel, it's going to be a similar situation with Mike. I think Mike is the younger, fresher fighter. I think working with Mike Jackson Wink, whereas Cerrone isn't. I think they know, like I was saying earlier, they know Don better than Don knows himself in a way. I think that's going to be an edge for him. And I see Perry winning the decision here in a fun, awesome fight.
Yeah, I mean, they're both great fighters. Perry has great footwork. He did a great job cutting off the ring when he fought Ponzinibbio. He has big power, and he seems to, have that power where, he can, disorient people at times, where, he hits them and they don't even know what's going on. I remember when he hit Ponzinibbio was running away and spinning around like he didn't know what was going on. Perry has a good chin, nice elbows, big elbows in the clinch like he had against Felder. But he has some real chinks in his game plan, in his plan, where I don't like how he comes in with his hands down. He's in striking distance. He rushes in straight in with his guard down. He doesn't seem to cover up even when he's in trouble. It's like he just relies on having a big chin. Whereas Cowboy, I think he's a more well-rounded fighter. I think he has the card stacked against him, but I think Cowboy's going to pull out a big win here. I can see Cowboy taking advantage of some of those things, finding those holes, because I think Cowboy is going to dig deep for this. I think he needs this win. I think Cowboy's going to finish him in the second round, TKO.
So then the main event, we have Chun Sung Jung, a.k.a. the Korean Zombie, who, finally back in the ring. We're making it happen against Yair Rodriguez. And again, this is going to be an excellent, excellent fight. How do you see this one going, Nate?
Well, I mean, Korean Zombie has a great chin. He took a big overhand right from Bermudez. And he has really good takedown defense. He's a great all-around fighter. And he has a lot of good weapons.
Hit that twister on a guy. Only guy ever to hit a twister, Eddie Bravo's twister, for a tap in an MMA fight. First guy ever to do that.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's an incredible fighter, and Rodriguez is really good. Rodriguez has showed really good jiu-jitsu early on, and he's shown really good stand-up skills. That switch kick that they knocked out, was it Andre Fili, I think it was? I mean, it was really impressive, the way he's able to generate that kind of power. I think you really have a classic grappler versus striker here. We don't know if Rodriguez has worked on his ground game since Frankie Edgar gave him a lesson. If I had to pick this one, I would say Korean Zombie's going to win a decision. He's going to take him down, beat him up. I don't think Rodriguez is going to be able to stop him. I don't think he's going to be able to contain him. I think Zombie's going to beat him up.
Zombie has been not as active as everyone would like between injuries and his mandatory military service with the Korean Army. But, when he's been in there, he's one of the most exciting. I mean, I feel like he's been in the game for so long, but he's only 4-1 in the UFC. But in the end, he is well-rounded. He's creative on the ground and standing up. He's beaten some big-time people. He's beaten Bermudez, Poirier, Hominick, Leonard Garcia. He's beaten some big-time dudes, and I feel like he's going to put a stamp on this one. Yair, Frank really showed what you need to do. I mean, Frankie Edgar destroyed Yair from a strong top game, didn't pass guard, decided I'm going to make it happen right here. And he did, and it was took him out to the woodshed and gave him a lesson. I mean, that's all you could say about that fight. I mean, that was it. And I feel like Yair, clearly fantastic, creative with the striking. I think it's going to be really fun. He's always fun to watch, but I still feel he hasn't shown me enough on the ground, and I feel that's Zombie's strong suit. It's going to get there, and I feel that Zombie's going to sub him out in the third round. I don't know how we're going to get it done. Choke armbar or something. Maybe electric chair. I don't know what he's going to do. He's going to do something down there, and it's going to be crazy. But I find Zombie third round sub, and Yair's got to go back to the board here and make it happen with the ground game. I don't think he does enough down there.
We talk about 145, 155 being the best weight classes in the world right now, and these guys are two of the guys which make 145 one of the best, because these guys are big-time contenders. The winner of this fight could get the winner of the Holloway Ortega fight.
Oh, yeah. 25th anniversary show. It's fantastic. Next week, we're going to get into it, man. We're going to talk about our favorite moments, what made UFC, so special for us. Great, we're going to talk about the early days UFC. We're going to go into it with you guys, and we hope you're there. Appreciate you guys checking out us on Twitter, on Instagram, Facebook. We love the feedback. Get out there on iTunes and give us a nice review. Reviewing is nice. What do you think, Nate?
Well, you could just rate and just click the stars, or just write a quick review. We have a few up there now. We're getting there.
Another great week, Nate. Another great night of action. We look forward to seeing you guys next week, man. See you then.
Have a good week. Like we just heard, check us out on Twitter at TBMMAPod or on Instagram at Trading Blows. You can also find us on Facebook at Trading Blows Podcast. And please rate and subscribe on iTunes or wherever you're listening.